We're here with driver of the number 61 late model, Dustin Jackson. How are you today, Dustin?
Good yourself, Jay?
Good, good. Big race down in Flamborough this weekend, but just too long of a haul to drive down there compared to the next two races here in Laird.
Yeah, we were planning on going, but we found a few things with the car that need to be taken care of. So we've been hard at her working on it and trying to get it ready for Thursday. Anyway.
So for people who don't know who you are and like say race, you're 24 years old and you already have 13 years underneath your belt. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's been a long ride, but it's been a fun one for sure. A lot of highs and lows in the sport. Raced Extreme 4 or 4-cylinder at start, Dodge Neon, and then I went to an Extreme 4-cylinder for a year. And then I raced factory stock, and then modified when I was 14 when we traveled Southern Ontario doing the Oscar mods and that. And then in 2015 we did the top speed modified in Michigan. It was a little bit different. We were a lot more horsepower and a little less of a tire. And then in 2016 we've been racing late models and modifieds, and since then it's been back and forth between the two. But the last couple of years just been a late model.
And something I was talking to somebody last week at Laird, like say a gentleman actually AIM Recycling. We were talking about racing and racing at Laird, and he was asking about young drivers. I said, well, Dustin Jackson, I think set, or I guess Michael Gold too. You two set, what do you call it? Not a record, but set a bar for Laird for young drivers. Right, this year we have two 11-year-olds racing out there. So you've set a bar at Laird that younger drivers can race short track racing, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as long as you got someone taking care of it, make sure your stuff's safe, and that's the main thing. It's safety. But you're pretty safe behind the wheel of a race with all the safety equipment they have nowadays.
And thing is, again, I'm talking to someone who's only 24, but you've been racing 13 years. What has changed in short track racing for what you've noticed over the last 13 years?
Um, Not a whole lot. Just I find the money is getting a lot more uh, cost worthy to excel, especially in the late models. There's I mean, we race in the States lots in Southern Ontario, but um, everything's just going up in price, so it's not getting any cheaper. But I mean, as far as just being competitive in that class, going down in the States and that, it's tough to compete with our stuff. We don't have $10,000 shock packages and different stuff like that, so it makes up. It is hard to compete when you're talking tenths of a second. I mean, we're not super far off, but we're off enough where we're not even competitive anymore. So we've been trying to get our stuff up to speed, and it's been a tough one. But even at Laird, we haven't been up to speed to where we have been the last couple of years, just because different things. Like I said, we had motor issues and different stuff that's been holding us back. So until we get that cleared out, then we can start focusing on the setup of the car and progressing in that way.
And not putting an X on his back, but what's it going to take someone to, like, say, beat Chase Wilson within the next 2 weeks? Anybody going to be able to do it?
I don't know. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I definitely would like to. Everyone would like to for sure. No one wants to see him win all the time, but he's doing a phenomenal job. They got that car figured out, and it's they deserve it. He's been doing everything right. Nothing's broke. I mean, it takes a lot more than just Chase doing what he does behind the wheel. He does a hell of a job, but he's been perfect. I mean, the guys have been perfect as well. The car hasn't had any mechanical issues, and no one's taken him out. So that's been good too. You never know what can happen out there. But yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some out of towners coming, so it might bring a little bit more competition. I know Sims will be back, and we're trying to make our stuff better to try and catch them. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully by the last race of the year, we might have something for him. But it's going to be tough.
And I think he's probably one of the only ones in the late model division that hasn't had a wreck yet this year, eh?
He's been pretty good at staying away from stuff. I've been lucky too. I haven't been tangled up in anything
It,
serious. So
just the engine's not cooperating with you.
yeah, we've been bouncing back and forth between the two cars, whatever one's best fit, and we blew the motor a couple times there this year. So we've had a tough go at it, and I mean they're not cheap to replace. So we've been trying to do what we can with what we have, but I think we went and picked one up a few weeks ago, and we just had to work the bugs out of it. But I think it'll be good for Thursday. Now
So
it's just mainly
go ahead.
focusing on.
Sorry.
Now it's mainly, like I said, focusing on getting the car to handle now. Now that it has some power. I mean, I ran this car all year, this black car with the crate motor all year, and I haven't had a problem getting bite or anything like that. And it's been turning pretty good. But now with a big motor in it, it's acting a little different. So it's going to take a few weeks to figure that out. And hopefully we get it figured out by the time the big race comes around.
And like I say, as of today, the big race has 19 drivers, so it's the biggest field in the first 3 years. It's the biggest field you guys are going to have, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's again, a few guys from Southern Ontario committed. I think I've heard one or two might become more coming up from down south, and we'll give you guys a little bit different competition to what you're used to, right?
Yep.
So, what's it going to take for you to win that 10 grand?
It's going to take a lot of hours in the shop, that's for sure. And I mean, as far as driving, it'll be just being patient, and anything can happen, right? Yeah, you want to get to the front before everybody else, but you got to do that without tearing your stuff up. So that'll be my game plan, is trying to get to the front, but at the same time, stay away from the carnage on the way there. And if I can't get by someone, you can't get by them. You just got to wait it out.
And the biggest thing is you can't win the race on the first lap, right?
Yep, that's
So
the biggest thing.
now, the thing is, again, how do you, when it comes to your, I say your team, or like you say, the crew that helps you, talk about how they help you with your support and your success.
Well, it's been a lot of it this season's been mainly me, my dad, and my friends helping out and that. But as long as we get along, we tend to make things work pretty good. But um, it's been a stressful year for both of us because we haven't been getting the results that we're used to. You know, we're used to winning and stuff like that, and it's been a struggle. We haven't been able to finish features. We're not used to having a car and a motor that isn't reliable, and that's been the biggest stress on us, is not being able to finish. So as long as we can manage to, I mean, like I said, like you say, we got a big race coming up, and 73 laps. It's going to be one of the biggest things. Is the guy that finishes 73 laps is going to win the race, right? And that's finishing first, obviously, but you need to finish to make sure you have any chance of doing that first. So we
And
got,
you, sorry, was it last year you came third?
I think fourth last year. I was third the year before.
Okay, so the first year you came third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had a Mike Parsons Memorial in 2019, but they don't talk about that one. But I won that one. That was the first one they ever had. It wasn't 10 grand to win, but it was still Mike Parsons Memorial.
So you're the inaugural winner then.
That's what I'd like to say. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll remember that next time I do an interview. I'll make sure I mention you so that you get enough exposure, but I'll make sure that you're the inaugural winner. So now, a question: you mentioned you raced at Laird, you raced down in Michigan. How do you approach races? Do you approach them differently because it's different tracks?
Um, Depending on what's going on, like sometimes you just know you don't have the car today, and you just got to hang on for dear life, basically, wheeler. So sometimes you're going into a race and you have a good piece, so you just want to be patient and let things unfold. But when you don't have a car that's not working as good, you'd have to drive it a little bit more aggressively sometimes. So I mean, we'll see what happens coming up towards the end of the year here, and hopefully I can be a little bit more patient behind the wheel in the big race, and hopefully everything's working well by then.
So after August 24th, are you racing anywhere else other than, like, say, after the big race at Laird?
Pardon me?
After August 24th, are you racing anywhere else? Like, say, after the race season at Laird's done?
That would be the plan as long as everything goes well. Yeah, we'd like to. We would like to do a little bit more traveling this year too, but we just didn't have the stuff to do it. So hopefully, we'll see if everything come out of there smoothly. Then we'll be checking to see what's going on around the area anyway, see if there's any tracks. I'm not sure when Laird's Fair Night is, or Kinross, but I think we're going to run the Kinross Fair Night too. I think they're having
August 30th.
Yeah, so we're going to be at that one, I'm sure. Because
So
nice
who
and
you
close.
driving for?
Pardon?
Are they having super lates, or who you driving for?
Yeah, they're supposed to have a super late model show. So that'll
So
be
that'd be
exciting. I've never raced a late model at Kinross before. I grew up watching them, so it would be
So,
definitely be exciting to get back out there.
and like you say, cost wise and everything else, it'd be nice to see Kinross add that class back to their race nights, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It would. I don't think they have a sponsor yet to commit to a full season, but they wanted to get us in for one night for sure. So I think most of us are on board and it should be a lot of fun.
And again, to close out their season, it might give some excitement for next year for possible sponsor, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. If they get a good turnout and people are happy with it.
And like I say, I was on the phone with Jordan Rocchetta yesterday, and he's going to be a guest tonight also. And we're talking about balancing time when it comes to racing and work and personal life. How do you do that? As like you say, it's a hobby still, but it's an expensive hobby. How you go about doing that? You and your dad.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough to do both for sure because you got to keep working and it's nice. My dad's retired now, but he still likes to do a lot of stuff on the side to make extra money and that, and he pays for the racing. Right, I'm very fortunate. Him and my mom pay for it, so they that's the only reason I have money to be able to go do stuff. But um, it's definitely difficult to balance it in between. But we love racing, and that's if you wanna if you want to race and you want to be successful, you got to spend a lot of time in the garage, and there's a lot of different time traveling to and from races. So you got to be committed to it, and we are. But it's been a struggle this year, like you say, with just having a car that is able to start and finish a race. So for us to go and travel, we've had a lot of time to ourselves, being able to do a lot of stuff this summer that we not used to doing because we haven't traveled. But then again, we're not happy on race day when the car doesn't work so well. So we've been working at it this week, and hopefully we'll be ready to go for Thursday.
And again, we've done a few of these interviews, but talk about a few memorable moments that you've had over the last 13 years. What come to mind?
Yeah, there's been quite a few of them. Definitely the big one when I won my first race at Laird when I was 10. That was definitely or I was 11 at that point, but that was pretty huge. Everybody running out on the track and that, and Greg
I don't mean to
Brazel
interrupt
interviewed
you.
me.
Do you remember who you beat? Do you remember who you beat?
Um, I'm not sure who. I think Chelsea Pace and I forget who else was out there. I don't. There was like 25 of them at the time. There's a lot of four bangers out there that year.
So losing to an 11-year-old, not happy then.
Yeah, no, no, I don't think. I don't think too many of them were seeing it coming. How it went out throughout the year. Because throughout the year we were pretty slow and we had a car that wasn't so good. And when my dad finally got a better one, we did pretty good opening night. And then the following week we were on a mission. We were flying. So
And did you
I
win the
think
following week?
yeah, we won. We won the Cornfest weekend. That was the big Cornfest weekend. We couldn't have found a better one to win for sure. So it was pretty huge thrill for sure.
The only
And then it kind
downfall
of
is you were 12 years old.
yeah, yeah. And then the following year I raced double duty. I raced that car at Kinross or Onaway all season, and we won like 6 out of 8 features that year. And then I raced the Extreme Four at Laird at home. So I won the mid-season championship that year. It was pretty exciting for sure because we worked hard at it all year and we finally found the right adjustment and we were able to beat the Bird Ashes that year because they were him and the Bebos they were cleaning up.
So why again? I go back. Why late model compared to say a modified?
Well, we're just kind of stuck with them at the moment because we got 2 of them, and we'd like to get rid of one for sure. One's for sale, but we were thinking about getting into modified again in the future because it could be a bit more cost efficient. But the one nice thing about a late model is, I mean, if you can get your butt kicked in any class, but when you get your butt kicked in a late model, you get paid pretty good for it. So the cost does help, like getting paid out pretty good does help week in to week out paying for expenses and that. I mean, I know guys that got just as much money or more in their modifieds and factory stocks that we do in our late model stuff. So in that case, it definitely it's definitely good. But like I said earlier, it's coming to the point where to be competitive, you got to spend a lot of money. And I'm not sure if we really want to go that route or if we just want to, race the modified deal and that because a lot of guys we're up against, they're sending their cars away to get shocks done and get them set up for them and that. Well, we've never been able to afford that. We're not gonna start doing that. we're just gonna do what we can with what we got. But that's up what we're up against. So it's
And that's
definitely good.
exactly. I was talking to George Parsons yesterday, and I'll use Jordan Sims' car. They send it down to London just to straighten it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's a big cost right there, right?
yeah, well, yeah. I was talking to Sims there yesterday, and that's what he had mentioned. Yeah, that's going to be a big bill. But I mean, that sucks when you get into stuff like that, especially when you got to straighten clips out and stuff. So that could have been avoided that night. I feel bad for him for sure. Definitely wasn't necessary. But I
And
don't see it. I don't know if I see any of it really changing because it never was addressed. So
and then I go back, and I go back. He's had 3 weeks, and again, Jordan. We know Jordan knows how to drive. He's had 3 weeks. He's had three did not finishes because someone's taken them out, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, that's the tough thing about the sport. There's a lot of highs and lows to it, but I'm sure when he's back out, he should be ready Thursday. I think, and
yeah.
I'm sure he'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Well, George left this morning. He told me he'll be back tomorrow with the car. So
Yeah,
they're
that's good
hoping to
news.
have it ready for Thursday and then next week for sure. So now,
That's
a
good news.
question I have is: if you could go back and talk to yourself when you were 11, what advice would you give yourself to be different? Anything different?
Um, I don't know. It'd be tough to. I don't know. I think everything went pretty smoothly, but for a long time there. But one thing about it, don't get up down on yourself when you don't win or when things don't go your way, because it can definitely beat you up. The sport. I've I've dealt with that last year or so, trying to just keep my composure after when things don't necessarily go our way and that, and just being stressed out the following week leading up to the next race, knowing that we might not have a good car again and stuff. And you can't let that eat you up because I mean the sport's for fun, right? And if you're not having fun, there's no point in doing it.
And that's exactly it. When you put the car away for the night, even though banged up or not, you're done for that week, right? You next week you get out there, you forget more or try to forget what happened last week, right?
Yeah,
So I go back and it's something I was talking to Jordan Rocchetta yesterday, and he said to me, he goes, maybe for him and Ryan jumping into super lates, like that's a huge jump from not ever driving to, but they're doing it, they're enjoying it. What advice would you give to people who are thinking of jumping behind the seat of a short track race car?
yeah, no, they definitely surprised everybody with that move for sure. But they're doing a fine job. I mean, they haven't caused any ruckus out there. Um, Jordan's been doing pretty good. Like I've got to race side by side with him a few times, and I'm sure when Ryan gets that car figured out, he'll be good too. I mean, it's all just seat time, seat time, seat time, and a lot of guys got a lot more seat time in other cars racing prior to them, and moving into the late models, racing late models as well. So for them to make that jump, it's not out of the picture. I mean, they've done it, they're proving it, right? And as long as you start near the back and you follow the guys for a bit and just kind of keep out of other people's way, then then it's just a matter of getting the laps, getting the feel for it, and getting up to speed, and getting your car figured out too. I mean, you could be the best driver out there, but if you don't have your car under you and it's not comfortable, you're not going to be able to drive it, right?
And talking with Laird, we'll say half the drivers probably have more than 10 years experience behind a super late model, right?
Some of them do, yeah. Some of them do for sure, but some of them you wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, definitely hairy out there sometimes, but um, yeah, no.
How do you deal with that as a driver?
Well, as a driver, you know who you're up against, and you can only do so much. But when you see who's starting in front of you, and who's starting around you, and that, it definitely keeps you on pins and needles. Sometimes you need to be alert, looking ahead of you at all times, because anything can pop off. And when things do pop off, you need to be nowhere to put your car to avoid it in the right time, which it doesn't always happen. It's accidents happen, right? I mean, there's only so much you could avoid, but that's one of my main things out there these days is just trying to stay out of trouble and leave guys a little more room than usual. And especially if it's a rookie or somebody that isn't as experienced, I leave him a little extra room than normal, right? I mean, you don't want to leave anybody an inch, but you got to leave them just enough. But with some of the other guys that are inexperienced in that, I try to leave them a little bit more room than normal. So
And that's when you're going in the corner. We'll use Chase as an example, another young driver, but with Chase, you only need that inch, right?
No,
Where
that's right. That's right. Like when I know when I'm racing side by side with Chase, I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna leave him just enough room, just enough room to make it work. And I'm not gonna leave him hung out to dry and put him in the in the dust. But I know I need to do everything I can to make him work around me, or he's gonna just fly by around me, right? So, but do it legally at the same time. Where if I'm side by side with even Rocchetta or something, Rocchetta's, I might leave him another half a car width just because, he's going to get sideways, he's going to get loose. That stuff's going to happen, right? Where you don't expect that as much from a guy like Chase or, even Arrington or um, Van
Cody
Hoyk or
McLean,
McLean,
yeah,
like those guys been at it for a long time. So you don't expect that as much, right?
and that your class is really showing making it exciting every week out there. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's entertaining for the fans.
Now you said other tracks. You did reveal the hammer earlier in the season, right?
We raced one show or we raced two. Yeah, we went to one in Owasso at the very beginning of the year, and we blew our motor. And then we haven't went back to Owasso since because we haven't had a an engine with enough horsepower to run there. So we went to Berlin with our crate motor, and we got our butt kicked there. But it was fun. It was a good time, and we did what we could. We ended up with the wrong gear throughout the day, so that put us in the back burner. But by the time the race came around, we weren't too far off, and we get to run with the field for a bit. And that was a fun night. It was a fun weekend. They did a pretty cool show. Jake Hymanen's calling me.
No, what's that?
Jake Hymanen's calling me.
Oh, and I told Jake, I said the thing when you said about Hyman calling you is he goes and wins a race and then he sells his car.
I know that was pretty surprising to everyone. I think no one's seen that coming. But I mean, he's a little bit older than me, and he's trying to get started with his life and that, and he doesn't want to leave himself broke. And I'm very fortunate. Like I say, my mom and dad helped me out with it financially, or else I wouldn't be able to afford to be able to save up to buy a house or anything like that. I really wouldn't. So I think that's what he's focusing on doing for now, because he realizes that to be competitive in this class, it does cost a lot of money. I mean, everybody's going and buying new cars left, right, and center. It's insane, So I think he made a choice of his own, and it bums me out because I'd like to be out there racing with my buddy, but I do understand the choices he made for sure.
And the last question that leads into is again short track racing. It's a hobby, like you say, expensive. Where do you see yourself doing a few years to come?
Yeah, I don't plan on stopping. That's for sure. Whether and that's like I said, we might end up getting into a modified in the next couple of years, but we're not done with the late models yet. We're gonna give her our best shot and see what we got for them for the next year or two, and hopefully we can free up one of our cars or two of them, and maybe look into getting it modified in the next couple of years. Um, but you never know. If we start winning in the late model, we might just keep it around.
Would you ever think of doing dirt?
I'd love to try it, but that's a whole different hobby. It's a whole different sport. It really is. So I mean, we'd have to basically get rid of everything we got and go that route. So I don't see it coming. I mean, I'd love to be put in a ride for sure. I'd like to drive someone's stuff. I got a good. I feel good about it. I could wheel her, but I'd figure it out pretty quick. But just to go jump into it, it's nothing we have any knowledge about either when it comes to setups or anything like that. So we'd be in the back burner for sure if we were to jump into dirt. And it's a lot pricier too. I mean, you're running with big block motors and you need them rebuilt every half a season and stuff like that. So I don't really see that coming in the future. But as far as continuing to be racing, we'll definitely be at her for plenty of years to come.
You just have to win Lotto Max, right?
Yep, that would help.
Yeah.
No, it'll just be working, going to work, and spending it all on racing, I guess.
And last thing is, I always ask is, who would you like to thank sponsor wise, or you've said mom and dad, but who else is there you'd like to thank?
Yeah, my mom and dad for sure, and all my friends and family that help out. I can't help them out, or can't thank them enough for all the support. My girlfriend, she's always there by my side when I'm down, and she's sometimes we just know better not to even talk to each other at the racetrack. So she's pretty good like that.
Well, it's
And
it's like you've never argued with anybody at the racetrack like your dad, right?
yeah, no, I try to keep that on the down low for sure. But my sponsors for sure, Julie Feifel Realty, More Construction, and also there's I'm drawing a blank right now. Jay's Piston Broke Pub on Cora Road.
Yep.
Those and Ryan Ola at River City. So those are a couple of our sponsors for now. I'd like to give them a shout out for sure.
Well, Dustin, I can't thank you enough, and hopefully we can talk to you in Victory Lane next Thursday or next week Saturday.
Yeah, you never know. We'll see what happens. Wish us luck.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.
We're going to talk about your first experience at Laird before we get into your rookie season racing in 2024. Let's talk about the first time out at Laird.
Yeah, so it was right when the track first opened, and Laird was the first opening. So I came up with the idea, and I asked my stepfather about it of selling ice cream at the track. I was just a young lad, and I had a trailer with a Nestle cooler on it, and would go down there, park the trailer at the gate, and sell ice cream when they first opened. I asked Donnie for his permission, and he was receptive and allowed me to do it. So when I forget how old I would have been there. It was right when it first opened. So yeah,
1999.
making some money as a young kid, and that's where I started off my entrepreneurial stuff too.
So 25 years ago, it's the 25th anniversary. So you're dating yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
So
that was my first experience, and I used to obviously watch the races as well too. And yeah, so that was my first experience with Laird.
And now, 25 years later, or 24 years later, I guess you say, you've decided to jump behind the wheel of a super late model. What drew you to short track racing?
I haven't been out there in a long time, to be honest. Just a lot of things on the go with work and business stuff and family, and so I haven't been out there for quite a few years, to be honest. And I had a buddy ask me if I wanted to go watch. He said the crowds were awesome in the last couple of years, especially this year. They were drawing big fans, and a lot of friends that I know were driving. So I went out and watched the race, and I literally got hooked as soon as I watched it. And
Got the bug.
just walking through the pits and everyone in the stands and stuff. It's a lot of our customers. Actually, it was a big one. I knew everyone in the pits. A lot of customers I see on a daily, weekly basis that buy from us, and we deal with customers and other business acquaintances. And it was just a cool atmosphere. I had a blast talking to people, and so yeah, it was just a really fun night. And I'm like, I should get into this. I'd love to get into it. I've thought about it a million times and never actually pulled the trigger. So yeah, that's kind of what sparked my interest. And then literally the next day, I seen a post from George Wilson. He had a post online for a driver opportunity for a race car that he was looking to sell or get rid of or get someone in it. And so I gave him a shout, and it went from there.
So was it you convincing your brother Ryan, who's also racing out this year, or was it him convincing you?
Well, no, I kind of pulled the trigger, and then I called him. I'm like, I think I just bought a race car, and I'm going to try and get into this Laird thing. And obviously, me and him go hand in hand, basically, with ever since we were younger. We always kind of did stuff together, all the way up racing, motocross, and stuff like that. So yeah, business wise, we do everything together, kind of thing. So he's like, well, if you're going to do it, I might as well too. And he kind of followed suit.
And talking, like I said, we keep on talking business and entrepreneur. Talk about what you guys do so everybody knows.
So we own North Shore Sports, local Skidoo BRP dealership. So power sports, ATVs, Sea-Doos, side-by-sides, boats, anything outdoors kind of thing. And we started it from in 2008, I believe it was. And yeah, we've grown it up. It's doing very well. We have a great staff, great customer base, and it's going very well. So and that was the other part of racing too. And I seen that post. I was talking to George, and I said, you know what? I'm either at work or with family. I don't have a ton of hobbies. I don't do much. I used to race motocross, used to race snowcross, and did that kind of stuff. But I haven't done any of that stuff in a long time, and just needed a little bit. And it's nice too. The Thursday night is a great. It doesn't tie up a weekends. I have 2 little kids, so it doesn't tie up my weekends and family time. So it's nice. It's a break from work. It's a getaway. I literally shut my brain off from the time I get to that track till the next morning. It's all about having some fun and chatting with people in the pits, and it's honestly
So it seems like you and your brother are a little bit of adrenaline junkies. It seems, then, right?
yeah, for sure. It's part of why we got into the power sports and the business we're in. But ever since I was a little kid, I've always loved motocross. I did it all the time. Used to have my BMX bikes, power sports, snowcross. So yeah, always played around with sports cars and buying and selling them. So it's always been in our blood for sure, and always been around it my whole life. It's just never actually took the time to get into any kind of car racing. I've literally up until a couple weeks ago, I've never even sat in a race car. I've never even spun a lap around the Laird track. I've never just kind of jumped right in and. So George took me under his wing, George Wilson, and it's been a blast for sure.
And that's one thing I was again talking to George and a few other people is you had only about 80 laps around that 1/3 mile track before you actually got another competitor out there with you.
Yeah,
How was
which
it
is
different from that 80 laps to having somebody whizzing beside you?
when I first got in that car and did my first lap. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. It was such a crazy feeling. Like getting in the car was one thing, but then once you're strapped in and you have the helmet on and you can't move in there, and it's very hard to see what's going on around you. You have no rear view mirror, no side mirrors. It's tough to see it. So the first couple laps were definitely hard to get used just to drive the car and get around the track, let alone trying to follow the proper line or knowing when to brake and when to corner. There's a lot to it. Those guys make it look really easy. Chase and Jair and all those guys, Arrington, they make it look a lot easier than it is. It's definitely pretty challenging, and there's a lot of things that happening all at once. But yeah, it definitely from driving around the track by myself to getting out there with other cars and actually doing a lap and racing. It's a big difference, but it's so much fun. It's yeah.
And that's what Dustin mentioned because I asked Dustin about veteran drivers compared to rookie drivers, and I
Yeah,
said you drive, and I use you guys as a reference because
yeah,
you're older rookie drivers. uh,
yeah, absolutely.
he goes he goes, yeah, when I'm going into a corner and if I go and Chase or Kevin, he goes, I know I only need an inch or two. He goes,
Yeah,
the rookies, he goes, I give them maybe a foot or two. He goes, just because, and I've driven around there in my own car, but never a race car.
yeah.
And I can imagine what it's like in my own car. So I can't imagine going the speeds you guys are strapped into
Well, and
that car.
in those cars at those speeds, right? Everything happens a lot quicker. It's happening fast, and especially like I said, if you don't have the experience, those guys have a lot more experience. They know what to do. They know where other guys are. They're used to racing against them. But again, that was my biggest fear, and I keep saying it to George, and he talks me through it. I'm like, my biggest fear is like you said, wiping someone out or Chase is coming around to lap you or whatever. I just want to make sure I stay out of their way, and I have nothing to prove. And I just want to make it around the track, finish the races. Have some fun, eventually get a little bit more competitive and be up there with those guys. But obviously, at the end of the day, going home to my family is a big one too. And just trying not to take anyone out. It's dangerous at those speeds too, and just, it's expensive when you start wrecking stuff, as I found out the first race.
And one thing I've noticed, like say your progression, Ryan hasn't been out there as much as you have, but
Yeah.
the progression I've noticed, the first 2 weeks you had the blue and yellow flag come out saying like let the lead lap pass you.
So
The last
that was actually Ryan because
oh was it?
yeah, the first race I didn't get to the
Okay.
green flag. So the first race was kind of nothing for me, and then the next race my car wasn't ready, so I missed two.
Okay.
And then the last two I've actually gone. I think both races I think I've made it without. I think cautions actually kind of saved me. It tightened everything back up right when Chase was coming around. I think the caution came out a couple of times for the one race there was a bunch of cautions in the one race, and then last race was mine. My antifreeze cap came off and was pouring water all over, so it spun me out. But yeah, so both races I kind of lucked out with the cautions and tightened everything back up, and I didn't get into the lap traffic. But I know Ryan, he's having a lot of his car is not set up to what it should be, as you can see when you're watching. It's not turning. He kind of just jumped into it, and we haven't set his car up at all. George has been busy with my car and Chase and that stuff and trying to get around to it, but it's been a challenge to try and get his car set up and mine and get into the sport. It's been time is one thing, and then obviously we have a lot of people. I can rhyme off a whole pile of people that are jumping in to help us now, and it's awesome. But we'll get there. Obviously, if we can just get through this year, get a couple races in, and then try and be competitive for next year, would be awesome.
And I go back. What's the biggest thing that you say being a rookie or even a veteran driver when you jump into that car? What's going through your head when you're first going out? Now you say you got a few weeks under your belt. What's going through your head now to when you get out there?
Honestly, just trying to
Other
make
than,
sure.
sorry, other than holy shit, but
Yeah, that's a big one. I was just gonna say it's the adrenaline's going, and honestly, it's pretty cool when you pull out on the track and you hear the fans yelling and screaming, and it's pretty cool. It gets you pretty excited, and I know for me, I have a pile of neighbors, friends, employees, coworkers, family. I had a pile of family at the last race. I could hear them yelling when we pulled out on the track, and it's a pretty cool feeling to have all those people cheering for you and watching you. And the fans are awesome. It's the amount of fans that are out there, and the people that place is attracting is unreal. It's such a cool environment. So that's a big one. The fans yelling and everyone but just honestly trying to make sure you don't get too excited. Just follow your lines and stick to your lines and not do anything totally crazy that you haven't practiced or haven't thought of. Just follow your lines and, like I said, just try not to. For me, my biggest thing right now is just trying not to wreck anyone else, and make sure I finish the race is a big one for sure, because that's hard enough as it is just doing that, let alone trying to win or stay up at the front. But and again, we haven't had a ton of practice laps and trying to set that car up. And that's one of our biggest things is not knowing this. I don't know much about the setup of the car. So for now, right now, going out on the track is just finish the race, stay on the lead lap is what I'm trying to do, and stick with those guys. And that's my biggest thing in finishing the race and making it home at the end of the night.
and this is one thing I guess when you're dealing with George, and again a veteran driver, been
Yeah.
around for a long time. And I don't, how do I say this? I guess I'm just going to say it. How does he go from the way he thinks as a veteran driver to, and I don't mean, it'd be like talking to me too. How does he dumb it down? I don't want to say it that way,
Yeah.
but to a rookie driver, because George hops in and he goes, right? So
Yeah.
how does he, when you come off and he says, Jordan, do this. How does he deal with that?
So I'll go back a bit. When you asked how I got into the sport and stuff too, I called him and said, look, I'd be willing to do this and buy that car, but I said, there's no way I'll know how to do it. I won't have the means. I don't know anything about the setup. So if you actually want to take me under your wing and bring me to the track and do all this stuff, I know you're probably busy with Chase, but if you're willing to do that, I would gladly do it, but I would need your help. And he said, yeah, for sure. So that was a big part of it. If he said, oh, I don't have time or I can't do it or he wouldn't do it, there's no way I'd be out there. So yeah, it's unreal how he can basically put himself in my shoes, knowing nothing, and the questions he asks and about the car handling and this and that and getting it set up and getting the car set up. Like he has it detuned like crazy. Just because the power of the car, just because he knows that I probably can't handle that power in that car.
Yeah.
So he has it set up for my ability and learning, and he's slowly, as we go each race, he's been kind of giving me a bit more here and there. So yeah, it's pretty neat. And I can't really tell him exactly what the car is doing in terms of driver lingo. So I try and explain it to him, and he makes a change, and it's a big difference. So like I said, I don't think there's no way I'd be able to go out there without him helping out and taking me under his wing. So I have a huge thank you to him and everyone at the track actually too. I broke an axle last week, and you wouldn't believe how many people came over to try and
Paul Seabrook sent his daughter, didn't he?
yeah, Seabrook sent his daughter all the way home to grab an axle. I had other guys coming over. It's like it's I can't believe the support from every other team, and it's so much fun. The guys, everyone's awesome. They just want to see everyone out on the track. Usually think a competitive thing, like no one wants to help, but everyone's helping everyone. Jared came over to see if I needed help or if I needed parts. Like there's lots of guys that are willing to help out, and everyone's we're working with each other. It's cool.
And one thing I do ask a lot of the drivers, again, being Northern Ontario, being Laird, so it's only, so people don't know, it's about, say, half an hour east of Sault Ste. Marie, is
Yeah.
so it's mostly all local drivers. But how do you separate that friendship to competitors as soon as you get on that track?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's something you got to do. I've done it a million times with like I said, motocross and snowcross. When you're out there, you're racing, and then, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're not racing a Daytona 500. Obviously, everyone wants to win, but at the same time, everyone, like I keep saying, everyone's got to go home at the end of the day. Everyone's got to go to work the next day. Everyone's got a family and friends, and a lot of these guys I deal with pretty much every one of them at work, and on some level, you got to deal with them, and it's just fun. Everyone's out there to help everyone. It's a really cool environment. It's lots of fun out there. It's literally for that 5 or 6 hours you're out there, or even longer from the time you get there and practice to the time you pack up and leave and race. It's a great time.
Now that you've jumped in the race car that's more safe for a dad. Like you say, will you ever go back to motocross, or is racing you got?
No, no, that was the thing. I was kind of looking. I've had a couple buddies bug me to buy a dirt bike and get back into it, and it's a great sport. I just know I don't have it in me to go out there and kind of just putt around for fun, and I know I'll end up getting hurt, and I can't afford that with between work and family. I just don't want to. It's tough to do those other sports. Whereas this one, you mean you got a roll cage and a seatbelt and a harness, and you're strapped in there pretty well, and they're for the most part pretty safe, I believe. So yeah, that was the big one with the car too. It's something like you said, you can have an adrenaline, something fun, clear your mind, get out there, have fun, and have that need for speed, but still feel a lot safer than some of those other sports that don't have those safety features.
And your wife's in the medical community, so she doesn't want to see you in the in the
Yeah,
hospital, right?
yeah. And I talked her into it, and then the first race I put it into the wall. I think literally after it was done, she's like, "Are you sure
Or
you want to do
was
this?"
that
She's
you
like,
into the tires that one?
yeah, that was
Yeah.
me for sure. Yeah,
So,
that was the highlight of my start of my career. So
hey,
yeah,
get it out of
but
the way right
get it
away,
out of the
right?
yeah, get it out of the way right away and move on. But yeah, it was definitely not the way I wanted to start off. We actually had a great that qualifying that night. I was the best laps I've turned so far. Like we had an awesome qualifying. We were running great, and then I just made a stupid mistake and put it into the wall.
It
But
could have been a lot worse.
yeah, got it out of the way, and here we are.
Now, I use a very, very short racing career, but what's been probably the most memorable moment other than going into the tires and this summer so far?
Just finishing that first race. So after that, going into the tires, we obviously didn't race that night, and then we missed the next race. Just didn't have the car ready in time. And then but the first race, actually getting out there and actually finishing a heat, and then doing and making it all the laps, and then finishing the feature and making it all the laps. It was awesome. It was like the coolest feeling ever. I came off actually after because we crashed the car, and then I missed the one race. My wife, when I got out of the car after the feature, she came over and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe I haven't seen a smile in 2 weeks." She said, so I was smiling ear to ear after that feature for sure. It was so much fun.
Now, is she a bag of nerves when you're out there, or is she calm?
I think she's okay. I think my mom and mother-in-law are the bag of nerves for sure. But she's okay. I think she's good.
And the kids love it, you say?
Yeah, they literally love it. It's they love going out there. They hang out in the pits and play, and they love sitting in the car and seeing all the other cars. Yeah, it's a cool family sport for sure.
So, in a couple of years, we can see mini wedges for them then?
Yeah, we'll see. They're a little young yet, but maybe we'll see how this goes.
Oh,
We
Chase started
actually,
when he was 4.
yeah, I know. I've seen pictures and videos, and I think I forget how old he was when he won his first.
He won go karts at 4. I know that.
Yeah. George was
Yeah.
showing me some of that stuff. It was pretty cool. And actually, yeah. So getting back into the sport too, we've actually just bought a new car. So we have one that I'm thinking will be a little more competitive than the one we have now, and set up a little better. So we're looking forward, trying to hopefully get it out there this Thursday, but we'll see. It might be a stretch, but yeah. So looking
How was
forward.
that? How was that drive to Indiana? Did George teach you a lot while you're driving?
Yeah. We talked racing and stuff the whole time. It was a fun day. We jumped in the truck at 6 in the morning and got back at 2 a.m. So it was a long drive there and back, but we got it. The car is sitting in his garage, and we've been working every day all night. And well, not so much me, but those guys are. He's got Henry over there, Sabron,
Yep.
helping. Randy Lapasse's been helping George. I know I'm going to forget a couple people, but
Jim's been
yeah,
over there.
Yep. There's a lot of people, and then guys like Rick Anderson, his son. There's all these guys that are willing to help out and hand over parts and just make it work. I know I'm forgetting people, so I apologize, but yeah, there's been so many people wanting to help out to get it out there and get it on the track.
And not to put you on the spot, but what's happening? I say it's an old car for you already, being only a month and a half into the season. But what's happening with that car?
The yellow 33 that I was driving, I think Ryan's going to inherit that one I think this Thursday. I think he's going to take that one because it's a little bit better set up, obviously, and can make it around the track compared to the one he's been driving. And nothing wrong with the car that he has, but it's just not set up properly yet.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to take my yellow one and use that one this Thursday and for the next two races, and hopefully I can have mine ready for this Thursday.
So again, you guys are hoping to compete. You say knock on wood that everything's fine on Thursday. You're hoping to compete for the Parsons, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. I want to try and get, obviously, depending on how this new car goes, if we can get it out on the track Thursday and everything, shake out any bugs and try and get it set up. There's probably a lot of setup stuff that has to get done this Thursday, and then the race next week on Friday, I believe there is. And
Yeah,
then
Thursday, Friday. Yeah.
hopefully depending on how those go and how I feel in the car and how the car is, then yeah, if the car is going good and I'm feeling good and everything's working, then for sure, then we'll be out there.
So what's it going to be like with at least 19, 18 other drivers out there compared to the 6 or 7 you've been used to?
I've already been thinking about that. That's in the back of my head for sure. So, well, that'll be a big difference, a little more nerve wracking, and plays back to exactly what I was just talking about trying not to wreck, just hold your line, follow your lines, just stay on the lead lap and stay close to those guys, and try not to be the determining factor of taking people out or wrecking, or if you do get into lap traffic, just making sure I stay out of the way as a rookie. I don't want to, like I said, I have kind of nice. I have nothing to prove. I'm just trying to get out there and spin some laps and get a hang of it. So, but at the same time, don't want to screw anyone else's night up.
So you're not, like you say, 10,000 is nice to win, but you're not really shooting. You just want to finish on the lead lap, right?
Yeah, it'd be great. Well, and it's what, 75 laps? Is it 75?
73, 73.
73. Yeah. So even a feature at
That's
30 laps.
that's double what you're used to there, right?
Well, and that many, you throw that many cars on the track and everyone racing for $10,000, I'm sure it's going to be I'm sure everyone's going to be gunning to do it. So if you see, I know the one race we had quite a few cautions, and that's with 8 to 10 cars out there, or
Yep.
whatever it was that night. So yeah, you throw 15 to 20 cars in there and a $10,000 purse. I feel like it's going to get pretty aggressive, and it'll be a good show for sure.
Now, question I didn't ask at first. Why did you guys jump into super lates compared to, like you say, factory four or enduro or factory stock or mod? Why right to the super lates?
Yeah, I've always every time I've gone to watch, I've obviously liked that class. I think everyone kind of has a liking for that class. It's fast. It's yeah, I don't know. And then the big one was, like I said, I keep referring back to it, is the post George put online for that car. So I just called him and said, hey, I've never done this, and said, can we go try it out and try a few laps, and if we can do it. And I went and did a few laps with him. He's like, yeah. He's like, I wouldn't put you out there if I didn't think you could do it, and I wouldn't sell you the car if I didn't think you could do it. I would talk you out of doing it. He goes, but yeah, you're there, and it can only get better. So he's like, yeah, let's do it.
So, and again, going back to being George, again, he's again only not even a phone call away, a text away, right? So
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
willing to. And I go back. We all, again, people growing up in Sault Ste. Marie, Steel City Outlaw. He has that reputation. But if
yeah.
you know George Wilson, he's far from that, right?
Oh yeah, he's literally the. I've known him before from my aunt owns Misty's 50s. I've seen him there a few times, just in the power sports community, stuff like that. So talked to him a few times, chatted him about the track a couple times when I've seen him. And yeah, he's the nicest guy going, and literally like, his passion for the sport and wanting to like grow it and have more people in it, and helping, like when we're at his house working on the car, there's literally no less than 5 or 10 phone calls a night from other drivers asking him for advice or tools or tires, and he's always helping all them out. It's pretty cool for sure. Yeah.
Now, and I asked Dustin again, Dustin, before you, like say, veteran driver, but
Yeah.
you're in this division and you've been involved in racing for years. How's somebody gonna beat Chase?
I don't know. He's a good driver. He's young. He's fast. He's obviously loves the sport and spends a lot of time working on. He's, like you said, he's been running, I think, shifter carts, and he's been racing through the field, and he's raced a bunch of different models. So he's definitely a very talented driver. But yeah, it'd be cool to see. And even he says, and George says too, that they'd love. It'd be good if someone can compete with him and beat him or be right up there with him. It's good for the sport, and it's cool for guys like us that aren't beating them, or other drivers that are second, third, fourth. It gives you something to work towards, and to try and get faster and better. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. He's pulling quite the lead on the pack when he gets out there, and he's making his way through the pack, and he's doing good. So it's cool to see. It's awesome, especially a young kid. He's super nice. He's respectable, and it's nice to see him doing that well. But it would be nice to see someone up there competing with him and giving him a run for his money one of these days.
And I get the young fans will be upset because the sponsor idea with these checkered flags at the end, like NASCAR. The first week there was like 20 kids. There's probably almost 200 kids wanting those flags. So that's huge
Yeah.
alone, right?
Yeah, they'll be all upset if someone else wins and there's no flags. But actually, a funny joke is we were in the garage working on the car last night or the night before, and I took a bunch of flags and I said, George, where do I put these behind the seat for when I win? I said, for when I beat Chase next week? I said, I need to hand these flags out and keep the ball rolling with the flags, and he got a good laugh out of it.
Did he honestly say, and I'm not being mean, maybe next year?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, this new car should be pretty good. It's a newer chassis. It's a newer setup. The gentleman we bought it from was winning a lot of stuff in the States in it, and says it's awesome, and gave us all his setup information. And so I'm pretty excited to see if it is what it is. But we'll go from there. Hopefully it is what it's cracked up to be, and hopefully maybe we'll keep up with Chase one of these days.
Now how do you compare short track racing compared to motocross?
Oh, there's lots of similar things too. It's obviously a lot different, totally different, but obviously just the adrenaline, the nerves, that stuff. I get that same feeling motocross or that I'm always nervous going out there, and you have the butterflies and nerves, and then as soon as you start racing, they go away and it's a blast. But similar to motocross too, one of the big things was if you got in behind someone, just not looking right at their back fender or their back wheel, because if you do, you just end up following their lines. And if you're staring at the back of them, you can't pass them. So you got to try and look past them, find other lines, not settle into their speed or not settle in right behind them and be comfortable following. You got to try and find a way around them, which I've noticed in the Laird stuff is tough. It's tougher to get around someone, or if there's obviously not a ton of room. If it's hard, you have to have a lot faster car to pass someone, right? And a lot of the times are similar. So to pass someone and make a pass and get by them without wrecking yourself or them seems tough to me, but it's coming.
And that's something. And I talk to people. For you, and I use your brother, being rookie drivers. You're driving on a D-shaped track. So if you eventually go and race a Kinross, Dustin actually said they might have super lates there for fair night.
Yeah.
And the thing there is, it's an oval. So again, oval, it's different, right? So you guys have learned on a harder track compared to a lot of people that have learned on an oval track, right?
Well, when we went out there to try the car out and just to see if I could do it, I didn't realize that track wasn't an oval. I literally, my first lap, I was like, I couldn't believe it. And then I was trying to drive it as an oval. And then when I came off, George explained it. He drew it on a piece of paper and he's like, this track is not an oval. You don't realize it's a D shape. It's not like a normal oval track. So he had to explain it to me where to come into the corners and when to cut down, and kind of drew it on a map to try and explain it. And as soon as he did that, it made a world of a difference because I was trying to drive it like an oval.
So when you go to another track that's an oval, it might be a little bit easy, but it might throw you right off too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's
Last two questions. Being only the first season, but if somebody you were talking to, a friend or somebody said, "Hey, I'm thinking of getting into racing," what advice would you give them?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely tell them to get into it. Maybe start in a lower class. Don't jump right into the super late models. It was definitely a big learning curve. It could have probably been a little easier if I started a little lower, but no, I'm happy I started there. But for sure, it's a blast. It's a ton of fun. It does take up a bit of time and ties up a little bit of your time getting the stuff ready. It's a big involvement. It's a big commitment, but honestly, it's so much fun. It's a blast.
And the last one, looking ahead, what's the long-term goal for Team North Shore Racing?
Me and Ryan talked about it too, and once we got into it and we've been to the track, I think that was another one too. Ryan came out and checked it out and realized the crowds and the fans and how cool of a community it is out there, and how awesome the fans are. And then we got out there racing, and now we kind of looked at it and said it'd be kind of cool to put together like a team, have 3 or 4 cars, some other guys driving them with our names on it. Yeah, so that would be kind of our goal, would be have a couple, 3 or 4 cars, a couple of guys driving them, a team of guys that are working on them, and just it's cool. Like kind of almost start like a little North Shore team if we could, and if we could find some guys to drive for us. Something
Probably won't be that hard.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But again, obviously, it's not a cheap sport once you get into that class. I'm not sure about the other classes, but I know to be competitive in that class again with Chase and Jer and Arrington and all these guys, I think it definitely gets to be a little more expensive, the cars and stuff. So, but it would be cool. That would be our goal, is to kind of have like a little North Shore team and our cars out there. It's good advertising for us. It's great that way, and a lot of fun too. As long as it keeps going the way it's going and we're enjoying it, I think that would be our goal.
And then I'll use somebody as an example, Michael Gold, for instance, where he's got a mod, but he's raced for years. Somebody like that would be, I say, perfect, right? Because it's not against any other drivers, but he's been around, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
To bring him in.
I literally had that phone conversation with him today for about an hour. I just said, kind of here's what we were thinking. I may have, depending on how this goes with the new car and the other car, I may have a car if Ryan's not going to race in that big race, that my yellow 33. I kind of mentioned it to him, or just said, in the future, or would you be interested? And he was very receptive. And like I said, he's the first person that came to mind when I thought I may have an extra car if this new one gets done in time. I may have had an extra car unless Ryan's going to jump into it, but yeah, if it was just sitting there, I was thinking of asking him, and I talked to him today. So something along those lines, like we talked about with having a couple of cars and a couple of drivers, but he's the first one that came to mind, and I talked to him today about it.
So just like his slogan, right? Gold is sold. So
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to sell him on it, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. He did actually did really well last week. He won his feature too.
After 15 years away from the track.
Yeah. And I used to actually, I remember watching him, and I remember watching his dad actually when I first went to Laird. So yeah, he's a great guy, awesome to deal with, nicest guy going, and he can drive for sure.
So last thing we always ask is shout out if there's any sponsors, and other than George and that, who'd you like to thank?
So yeah, so obviously our dealership is a big one. That's one of the ones that's without my dealership, I probably wouldn't be able to afford to do this. And the biggest one is obviously my staff. I've had to take off on Thursdays around noon or 2. A lot of my mechanics in the back, Caleb McHale, and all my parts guys in service, and our staff have been super supportive and rooting us on. So without them, I wouldn't be able to take the Thursday afternoon off if they didn't cover for me, and if they weren't
Interrupt. They're probably saying the boss is gone, so that's good, right?
Yeah. But no, honestly, without them, we wouldn't have the dealership, and without that dealership, I wouldn't have these cars, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So that's the biggest one, is the dealership, and the staff is awesome, and they're super supportive of it, which is great. Then obviously, I mentioned him a million times, George. Without George, I wouldn't have it as well. Caleb McHale, one of our techs in the back's been at the races every night helping me. Randy LaPosse, he owns Reggie's. He's been helping me out at the races every night, setting up the car, the stagger, the tires. Ran to town with me to get parts the other night when we broke. And then there's Daryl Sherlock. My cousin Daryl's been there helping a lot. I know I'm forgetting someone or some people, but and then other sponsors, we have Advanced Plumbing. My brother-in-law Scott Charette from Advanced. He's been helpful. Glass employees, Timbari Electric, Misty's 50s. Who else was there? I think that's about it. Yeah.
So again, it goes back between family and, like you say, support. Nobody would be racing, right?
Yeah, and I'm a big one. My wife allowing me to do it for sure.
Got to thank the boss, right?
Yeah. Without her blessing, we wouldn't be out there. But no, she doesn't mind if I do that kind of stuff. So yeah, she was all for it.
So and it goes back, not just you found out that racing is a family, but also it involves the family, your own immediate family too, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's my niece nephews come out. They're all the families out there. All the kids are running around. It's so much fun. It's cool. We have tons of family pictures with the kids in the cars, and it's great. It's awesome.
And that makes the night, right? Like you say, no matter how you did on the track, when you come off and those kids just want to.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, and if they weren't there too, if I was going out there and racing the car at Laird and my family was all sitting at home here and I was out there, they wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be as fun. So having them there, coming off the track and seeing them smile and hanging out with them, spending time at the track is awesome too. I get to do a sport that's fun, having a blast with it, and having the family by my side. It's way better.
So maybe I'll interview your wife at the end of the season to see how she feels.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Jordan, I can't thank you enough, and maybe we'll do an interview after the big race next week.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again for having me, and to anyone that wants to come out and watch, you definitely, if you haven't been out there, it's something cool to see, and it's an awesome place. So come on out for sure.
And then for Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma, other than the Sioux Greyhound games, you don't see crowds like that anywhere.
No, and I actually compared that when a couple people asked customers at my shop, well, I heard you're racing, and asking how it is. Same thing we're talking about, and I'll explain to them. I can't believe the fans. That's one of the big reasons why I got into it. It's such a cool event, and I haven't seen fans like that. It's like a Greyhound game. It's actually drawing probably the same or bigger crowds, and it's a blast.
And racing fans, it's not to be mean to Greyhound fans. Racing fans, I
Yeah,
find are diehard. Like,
yeah, for sure. No, nothing against that, but it's so
like
cool. Yeah.
2 weeks ago, it was 90 degrees, and I said to Donnie, I don't know what the fans are going to be like because it's 90 degrees out. It was packed, and then last week, the rain, we weren't sure if it was going to rain or not, and it still had over 3,000 people.
Yeah, it's a great turnout. Yeah, so anyone that hasn't, well, whoever's coming, keep coming. Obviously, it's a great show, and if you haven't come and you're thinking about it, you're definitely missing out. If you haven't been there, definitely make a trip out. It's only 20 minutes, half hour outside of town, and it's a great event. Lots of fun. Like I was saying, I know I'm forgetting someone, but one that comes to mind right off the bat that should have been up there at the very beginning of my sponsorships and thank yous is Kevin Bishop, actually, from I don't know how he slipped my mind because he's a big piece of the puzzle. He's been working on the car every night this week, and all weekend he was there. Him and Gord Hunt were there helping us. So Kev does all our decals for our work stuff as well, does all our window tinting on a lot of our side-by-sides for customers. As long as well as the dent shop, we use them too. But no, in terms of the racing, big shout out to Kevin Bishop at Chaos Graphics as a sponsorship, does all our wrap kits for our cars and our numbers for the racing stuff. So can't believe I almost forgot him, but glad I remembered him for sure.
And as for Kevin, I was actually talking to him in the pits the other day because his daughter grew up with my younger son. And I said to him, I said, is this full time for you now? And I won't use the words you use, but yeah, he goes, you can't keep up. And a lot of drivers don't know in town where to get decals anymore. So it's something
He's
that
actually doing, I've seen quite a few cars now. I think a lot of the cars that are out there are now using Kev. I think he's getting pretty busy with that stuff. I think he's actually, it's hard for him to keep up with the amount of work that he's bringing in. So it's good. And then even, like I said, doing the decaling and the race car stuff, he's doing well with that. But even at the races, he's helping me out a lot too. Like just even on the car, if we're changing tires or doing whatever, he's always in the pits, kind of hanging out and helping us as well. So yeah, big shout out to Kevin as a sponsor as well.
because he was a big motocross guy, right?
That's how I got into motocross as well. I spent a lot of time traveling with him, going to the races, riding at Ray Gallett's track in Echo Bay. We had a track in our backyard, and spent a lot of time with Kev growing up. And he actually worked with us for quite a few years at North Shore until he started Chaos. So yeah, we have a personal relationship, business, and yeah, we've been chumming around for a long time. So it's great to have him on board and helping as well. So thank you.
You won't have Kev not keeping the lug nuts loose on your tires in.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Now that you didn't forget him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if I forgot him, would have been a different story. But yeah, so
well, thank you, Jordan, and we'll talk to you Thursday.
Okay, have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye now.